Good morning guys, welcome back to another video for this week's vlog that marks 12 weeks out. If you've watched the latest videos, you'll obviously know the drill in the morning routine. I've been out for my weight walk, coming back, making my coffee, and about to sit down and crack on with the day of work. Today is a rest day. I was actually going to record on Tuesday because it's Thursday today, but it ended up being quite a busy day. So I thought, okay, I'll do today instead. Today is still a busy day of work, but I should hopefully have the ability to film a few bits and take you along today. Obviously, a large part of the days are very, very similar, but I also think that's why it's kind of important for me to share these videos still, to show you that, yeah, like a large part of bodybuilding, especially in prep, is about consistency. It's about routine. It's about keeping things the same, keeping things relatively low stress. You know, I'm not doing anything crazy or anything massively out of the ordinary. That doesn't mean that it's not still a good day and that it's not still super enjoyable. So I will bring you guys along today's rest day. It's a little bit different to the previous rest days that I've shown you, in the sense that this is a rest day before push, so I do have a little bit more output. But yeah, I've got a busy day of check-ins to crack on with, some setup work to do, potentially some other plans. I'm not 100% sure just yet. You'll have to stay tuned and find out. But yeah, gonna crack on with the morning, that's the main thing, and then I will catch you guys at meal one, and I will actually take you through my meals a little bit more properly for today. Hey Hannah, good morning. Thank you very much for your check-in for today. I hope everything is really positive and just all round it's been, for the most part, a really, really good week. When you are eating those meals, regardless of how hungry you are, that you do give yourself time to actually sit down, be present with that meal, take your time to chew your food, because not only does that affect digestion, but it also affects satiety, and that can be a big problem for a lot of people when dieting, when in prep, is that they struggle to feel satiated at all with their food, because you know they're rushing getting it in, and it's so easy when you feel hungry to think, oh my god, I'm ravenous, I'm gonna just eat this meal and inhale it in about 2 minutes. But if you do that, then you basically feel like you've not eaten. And the shots are very, very good today. Even though you trained legs yesterday, we can actually see some new detail in your legs, which I think is part of there being actually just some good positive inflammation, but also just a really strong indicator that you are definitely leaner across the board. Really getting a lot of knee flexion and getting like hamstrings touching calves. That's what we want to see here, to get a really good stretch in the quads. You feel a lot better as we start to come into this next week, but then that's just a case of continuing to tick the boxes. So that is my first work block all nicely boxed off. It is now 9:10, so I've pretty much finished most of my check-ins for today. I've only got a couple more to do, and a few other obviously additional bits, but because I do start work like quite early, I'm generally pretty much finished at this time, because especially by this time on a training day, I'm not too far off having, you know, like my pre-workout meals. So I always kind of have that exact same routine, and then rest days I just have the ability to do any extra work that I need to do on top of my usual check-ins and any other bits. So it is time for my first meal. I do have this meal just a little bit later, as I've mentioned before, on my rest days, because again, with me not training, it kind of like opens up a little bit more time. It means that I'm not finishing my meals super early or having like massive gaps in between my meals across the day. So in the morning when I'm like busy with work and I can crack on and I'm really productive as well before I have my first meal, I like to get a good amount of stuff done. So it helps me to keep my work productive, but it also helps me with just like managing food across the day in general. But now I'm very excited to have my creaming, then I will sit down and switch off whilst I have my meal. It's very important. Whenever I eat, I never, ever, ever work. Obviously, if I've got like a message I need to get back to, I'll get back to it. But I'm never like doing check-ins, I'm never like doing programming or anything like that while I eat. I usually will like sit down at a table and sit and watch something or listen to a podcast or whatever it is, and make sure that I'm actually present with my food, with my meal. I chew my food, I take my time to eat it, I'm aware of what I'm eating, and that's really important for good digestion and also like managing appetite on both ends of the spectrum. Whether you're in off season and you think you've got a bad appetite, like you need to actually be present with your food, or if you're dieting and you're really hungry, if you're just rushing through meals, it's gonna make it really, really difficult for you to actually feel relatively satiated at all from what you're eating. So here we have my usual meal one, which is actually the one meal that is literally the same every single day. So same 30 grams of whey as a creamy with 100 grams of frozen raspberries. I personally always like frozen fruit because one, it's a little bit cheaper because it lasts longer, and two, I actually just think it tastes nicer. I'm not really a huge fan of fresh fruit, to be honest. Now, as I sit and eat this meal, I am sitting and eating this meal alone, and I'm quite sad to announce that AJ is not present. He is not here for honestly the first time ever. This is the first time ever that we've not been together and I've been like at home alone. Obviously, I went over to the US earlier this year to go and support Meg, but he has now gone away because he has gone to the World Championships in the Netherlands, which usually is a trip that like we always go on together. We always go to the Worlds together. We go on these trips, which I love them, but because I am 12 weeks out, I am obviously not there, and I'm home alone for 4 days. And yeah, I'm not loving it. It's been 3 hours. I'm 3 hours in, and I miss him quite a lot. I know that sounds so pathetic, but we don't really spend a huge amount of time apart. So unfortunately, I'm now sat solo, and we will not have AJ's wonderful addition to the videos because he does definitely bring them up a bit more. He's definitely the funny one. He's definitely funny, and I think most of my viewers come in for AJ as opposed to me. Right. I'm going to eat this because I'm getting distracted by it and I actually need to eat. And then I will catch up with you guys in a little bit. Since I finished my first meal, I have boxed off some more steps. I've just pretty much finished most of my main work now for the day. So I'm on 10,000 steps. Most of my work done. I've just got a few more steps to do and my cardio, which I'm gonna do after I eat meal 2. But I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the importance of really understanding a client or an athlete when it comes to being a coach, because I've just posted some pictures of my wonderful client Jess. I'll show you here, which, by the way, on that note, it's 11:30 now. I've just been on Instagram for the first time of the day. I intentionally do not check social media until I am finished with all my work, and on training days as well, I usually don't check social media until after I finish training as well, because I'm obviously focused on the tasks that are most important. I personally don't enjoy going on social media other than when I actually need to like post something. So I've just gone on to post these pictures of Jess, and in the caption of this post, I talk about how when I saw Jess the other day, she said to me like, Loz, we've not really made any changes. And I've had to reiterate this point to Jess a few times during the prep, because she's an absolute workhorse and she loves the process, and she's always like, Loz, I feel great, like push me harder. And I'm like, Jess, I don't need to push you harder. And this is something really important to understand in prep, is that you don't always need to be pushed to the maximum. Like, you don't always need to be eating as little food as possible or doing as much expenditure as possible. It's about doing enough to facilitate an appropriate rate of loss that still allows you to perform well, to feel good, and to maintain as much muscle mass as possible. You know, getting into stage lean condition is an art. It's not just about fat loss, or scale weight loss. Otherwise, a robot would coach you looking at coaching sheets and they just keep pushing you harder in a deficit. There's so much more to it, and this is why this point, as I mentioned, is understanding the athlete as a coach makes a huge difference, because prep really is like a push and pull process, or it's a case of even when you're pushing someone, knowing how to push them. You know, do you do that via expenditure, via nutrition? How are they managing it? And really being able to gauge from that person and understanding that person to know when they're feeling good, when they're not feeling good. Like, I know that Jess sometimes will tell me she feels good when she doesn't. And I have to be able to understand when she actually needs to back off, you know, when she actually needs a deload, when she actually needs some more food. And even on the opposite side of that, it's knowing when you can push someone, you know, like knowing the limits of what that individual can handle. And it's a huge reason why working with a coach before you prep is important, not just for the physical aspect of, you know, setting the prep up and having a timeline. It's the ability for them to really understand you as an athlete. And this is something great that I think Hani Rambod spoke about this, where he kind of likens coaching to just understanding individuals. And I massively agree with this. Is, you know, you obviously need to have the knowledge, the principles, you need to have the skills and the understanding to actually coach someone. But really coaching somebody is about understanding that person. You know, it's about being able to manage people and to be able to read people. And it's why, like I say, robots don't do this job, because you need to be able to really understand someone, understand how they tick, understand not what works just in a textbook or just in a research paper, but how that really applies to that person. And like, Jess is someone that I've been fortunate enough to work with for 2.5 years now. And quite a lot of my team that are competing this year are people that I have worked with for a long time. Or even just, you know, having some time in the off season before they did start prep, it does make a huge difference. So when it comes to maybe you as an athlete considering working with a coach before you prep, don't just think about the progress, don't just think about the physical setup of the prep. It's about developing that coaching relationship that is going to enable your coach to coach you to their absolute best ability. And it's why also, generally, the longer you work with a coach, the more you build a relationship, better outcomes you're going to get from that coaching relationship as well, like, no doubt. And it's a huge reason why I'm so confident in my situation, even working with AJ's, because I know he knows me inside out. You know, like, it makes a huge difference. And you can build that with a coach. They don't need to be they don't need to be your boyfriend or your partner, and sometimes that actually doesn't always work well. But having a long-term relationship, that's the main thing. It does make a huge difference. So do not neglect investing in that. I'm just prepping my meal 2 now, and it's so funny because it makes me realise how much little food I actually need to prep if I just prep my own stuff. I don't have to prep too much stuff for AJ, to be fair, but I am always used to doing like 2 portions, and instead I only need to do my own. And I was looking in the fridge and I was like, I've bought all this chicken and I'm gonna only need 1 of those packets to last me the whole few days, because obviously the amount of food that I eat relative to AJ is so much less. And it really reminds me as well of like when I was at uni, and obviously I only had to buy like food for myself. And you know what, I know a lot of people say, oh, bodybuilding is like really expensive, and especially as a student they like might worry a lot about, you know, affording bodybuilding and how are you going to pay for everything? And honestly, like, I saved so much money when I was at uni because, like, comparatively to my flatmates and my friends who were like going out all the time, like getting takeaways or going out for drinks, like, I personally don't drink, so like I wasn't going out and like spending a lot of money on nights out because it's just not my thing. Like, all I needed to really buy was my food and my weekly shop, which I think at the time was like 30-40 pounds a week. That was like all I spent. So I actually saved a lot of money. You know, if you compare like me spending 30-40 quid a week on my food I need versus my friends who might spend that easily on a night out, you know, it's definitely not as expensive as you think it is when you actually kind of simplify what your bodybuilding needs are. That is 100 grams of chicken then just gone into the air fryer, which this one that we have is like an air fryer slash grill slash, it also does like baking, dehydrating, obviously things that I've not really, well, that's rude because my camera literally just died on me. Anyway, as I was saying, my chicken is in the air fryer. I've got 95 grams. Oh my god, I almost just burnt myself. Okay, health and safety, don't put your hand on the boiling pan, funnily enough. 95 grams of broccoli in here, and I've got a measly 30 grams of mushrooms I'm gonna put in the pan. That looks so funny like that, sorry. The reason why I've just got the single mushroom is because I've run out of mushrooms, so that's why I've got a little bit more broccoli, a little bit less mushroom, which will go in this pan, and then that will be the veg, and then I will show you what I pair this with when I come around to putting the meal together. I am sorry as well because I know I basically spend 90% of my time in this single room, but I do spend 90% of my time in this single room, cooking, working, eating, same thing. It's only really when I go to the gym or I go out that anything changes. So I do apologise for the lack of variety in scenery because I know it makes things pretty boring, but like I said at the start, that is just the reality of the day-to-day routine. So here we are, this is my usual meal 2, which is the 100 grams of chicken, broccoli, mushrooms, 35 grams of kimchi and 75 grams of avocado. These are actually what I use for the kimchi. This is the brand that I use, and this is actually what I use for avocado, rather than actually getting proper avocados, because when you get fresh avocados, they just go horrible. Like, they're really hard to keep. So I use this, and it's consistent every day, and it's actually really, really nice, and it keeps a lot better. So that's what I use for those. We actually get all of our food from Ocado, which I think like a lot of the stuff is M&S, and a huge reason for that honestly is just because the quality of the food is a lot better. I do notice a big difference when I have like this chicken versus if I get chicken from somewhere that's a little bit cheaper. So especially the meat sources, I notice a huge difference. It's now time for one of my most favorite parts of the day, which is my 25 minutes on the bike, which honestly, I'm not being sarcastic, I do actually really enjoy. You won't have seen this yet because when I did my last rest day, full day in the life, it was the day before legs, and I don't do cardio the day or on leg days. I only do cardio on push, pull and rest before push. Other than that, I just have my usual steps and my walk. So I will go down now. I will do that on the bike. I will not show you it because I'm not doing that whole set up the camera, get on the bike, get off the bike, pretend I'm doing my cardio, not really doing my cardio. I'm just gonna crack on and do my cardio. So I will get that boxed off, and then I will catch up with you wherever I'm at in the day when we follow on from there. All right then guys, we are now headed out. I was umming and ahhing about what to do because honestly this is where on a rest day I would probably either just like stay at home and chill out because the cleaner's in, I don't really want to stay in the house, or I'd go to the cinema, which is like my favourite thing to do, but there's just nothing on, like there's nothing really good on, so I don't want to just like sit there and feel like I'm not doing anything productive. So I've taken my client and friend Anna's advice. She told me to go shopping, so I'm actually going to go to Meadowhall because I do genuinely need to get some stuff. I don't love Meadowhall, but I'm basically going to go get a coffee on my way there. I'm going to get there, I'm going to eat my meal 3 when I get there because I need to have that. And then I will just go for a little bit of a wander to get some of the bits because it is Father's Day on Sunday and it's also my nan's like birthday celebration, so I probably need to go and get her something. So I'm going to go to Meadowhall, hopefully try not to spend too much money because I don't ever really go shopping because I'll end up just buying stuff I don't need. And if AJ comes back from his trip and finds out that I bought more clothes that we don't have anywhere to store, I don't think he'll be too happy, but maybe I'll just have to hide them. So I'm gonna set off now and I may show you some bits when we get to Meadowhall, but I will probably film that on my phone. I don't think I will be taking a vlogging camera into Meadowhall, probably not. Wow, that light is really terrible. That's maybe gonna be a bit better. Anyway, here we are, we have arrived. I've got my lovely coffee, which I'm very excited to drink, and I'm going to have my meal 3, so I will show you my meal 3, which is in here. I've kept it cool in my little freezer compartment. We have got 100 grams of raspberries, which is my preferred berry of choice, 30 grams of whey and 20 grams of nut butter, which actually when I do this and I like put it in the bag and I take it out, it's so nice because it all like freezes together, so it is like a little dessert pot and I really like my sweet options. So I'm very looking forward to sitting and eating this before I go in. Of course I have got my usual spoon that I eat all my meals with. Me and Ella were having this discussion the other day about cutlery, especially spoons. You will not see me this prep eating with a baby spoon. I'm not getting those out, that's not happening. But these spoons, these are my favourite spoons and I use these off-season prep just because they're nice to eat with. I like a teaspoon and I like a long spoon because it's nice and easy, but I will not be doing the baby spoon thing because I personally think it's next level and I think that it makes you hungrier than you actually are. And especially if you're like at the start of prep and you're just like putting baby spoons in, it's almost like it's one of those things that you almost do that kind of tells yourself subconsciously that you're hungry. I don't actually think it necessarily makes the experience of eating that much better. If anything, like I say, I think it just causes you to fixate on being really hungry, if that makes sense. That's just my opinion. I'm not hating on anyone who likes a baby spoon. It's just something to consider. But yeah, I'm gonna eat this now and then I will head into Meadowhall and get the bits that I need. Oh, also, new jumper. This literally arrived just before I left and I realised that I needed to get this because I didn't want to keep wearing that same hoodie that I've been wearing in literally every single video and clip that I've been wearing. I do wash it, I promise, but it's just that these Sisters and Seekers ones are like the comfiest ones, so I've just bought more of them. That way you don't have to see me wearing the same one every single time. Well, that was actually a very lovely trip. I am, however, going to be telling Anna off because I spent money. I spent too much money. To be fair, I bought some actual productive things that I needed. So I have got some gifts for my nan, for my dad, some things for the house that, you know, we really, really needed, you know, from rituals, and also some clothes that I definitely also needed. But it was actually really nice to just kind of like wander around and do that because I've not done that in years, probably ever, to be honest. So that was lovely, and I am definitely over my step count, so I'm now ready to go home and actually rest. I'm gonna have my meal 4 when I get in. I'm gonna put that on. It's my salmon. I've just been and bought some mushrooms from, my car's making a really weird noise. It's concerning. Just been and bought some mushrooms from M&S because as much as I've got an order coming in the morning and I don't ever go to the shops. Oh my god, absolutely not. Sorry, I don't ever go to the shops. I always get food delivered because I don't enjoy going to the shops and it's too time consuming. But I needed some mushrooms. Now, what is the time to get home? Okay, not too bad. Sometimes it can literally take like an hour to get home when the traffic's this bad, but 30 minutes is not terrible. So I will set off now and then I will catch you at meal 4. I'm very unconfident that, is there a bollard there? Maybe. I'm very unconfident that this is actually gonna stay in place because this is not an actual car holder, it's just a tripod. But I did want to just like talk very briefly about how important I feel as though it is to have like switch off time in your routine, and I really try hard to do this on rest days. And the thing is I think that a lot of bodybuilders and or coaches feel very guilty for like actually taking time away from doing bodybuilding directive tasks like training or eating your meals or just staying at home and working. And like, just as with anything, I think that you do have to have some time where you aren't solely focused on that one thing. Like even just then, you know, me walking around for like an hour, like that's all it is. I'm walking around for an hour and yes, I have my WhatsApp there if I need it, obviously, but I'm not working and I'm not just thinking about bodybuilding, because it means that then like I'm excited to get back to my messages, or you know, I look forward to the next day of check-ins and I look forward to then listening to something bodybuilding related rather than just like everything being, you know, bodybuilding or work all the time. It's important to actually have that time to come away, because when you take time away you become better at doing those other things. And that's not to say that you like miss a beat or anything like that, it's just having, in my opinion, like mental clarity and freshness, because it's like we always say, it's not about just ticking the boxes and doing these things all the time, it's how you do them. And you know, if you can be fresher for those things and do those things more productively, more efficiently, and enjoy them more, that's really important. So yeah, don't be afraid to take a little bit of time to, you know, come out of your routine and make sure that when you actually do your set tasks that you need to, work, bodybuilding, training, all of that, I like to think about, you know, making that as productive as possible and always getting the most bang for your buck. Prepared and ready to go. I'm just going to put my salt on for this meal, which, as I think I mentioned before, I always weigh out my salt for the day in advance of the day. So that goes in a little mug, and then that is just spread across the meals evenly over the day. So we have got here 1 Atlantic salmon fillet, 100 grams of veggies, some mushrooms, and 35 grams of kimchi. If you are having a salmon fillet in your diet, I'll always recommend Atlantic. 1, because honestly it's nicer. 2, it is significantly lower fat. To be fair, like if you want to have farm salmon and have the higher fats, that's actually like fine if that's part of your diet, but just be aware of it, because I think some people don't realise and they swap and change, and you can go from having an Atlantic salmon fillet that's got 5 grams of fat versus a farm salmon fillet that has got usually about 18 grams of fat. So you're looking at 13 grams of fat there. That's a decent difference. So, you know, do make sure that you actually
have awareness of what salmon you're actually having if you have got it in your diet. But yeah, this is this meal for me. I will eat this, and then to be honest, I'll probably just catch you when I make and prepare my last meal. I'm gonna actually make that like soon. I think you've seen me make my oats before, so I don't need to kind of take you through it, but I'll meet you guys at my last meal so that I can finish off the final jobs for the evening, and then I can cap off the day there. I did actually just want to show you guys very quickly, as I've just updated my log on MBW. I update my log on MBW every single day. Every single day I run through my body weight. I give you an update on how I'm feeling, what I've done during the day, what I've trained. I often put more frequent actual check-in physique shots on here as well. And I just give a really, really in-depth play-by-play in my process. It's also kind of like a little bit like a journal. So if you want to follow along my process way more intricately, please join MBW, and you can also follow along so many other amazing athletes' logs. We've obviously got our main sponsored athletes on the site, but we also just have an incredible community of so many amazing natural bodybuilders who all share their journeys. There's questions, discussions, everything on the forums, as well as, of course, the training videos that we upload on there on a very, very regular basis. As you'll see, I have some training videos on my YouTube, but that's nothing like the content that we have on MBW. Like, the content that we pull out on here is absolutely wild, with like the sheer amount of content that we constantly have up on here with such a variety of athletes. The attention to detail that goes into all these videos is truly so valuable, and I'm not just saying that because I'm part of the site. Like, I think that what this site is truly so incredible, and I really wish that I had something like this myself at the start of my journey. Like, I can't even comprehend how much of a difference it would have made to like feel a part of a community like this, but to just have access like to all of this information, and to follow along other people's journeys, to learn more, especially with like the courses that we have on here as well, that AJ's done an incredible job with. I've obviously done like a few bits on here for female specifically and newer athletes, but the amount that you can just learn when it comes to bodybuilding on here is just so valuable. And I would have saved myself a lot of very silly mistakes and just simply not really being the best that I could have been by learning as much as I possibly could have. And like, just through a membership site like this is wild. So yeah, if you're not on MBW already, get on there now. Link is down in the description. I very nearly forgot to share my last meal, as I'm very much ready to eat this and go to bed. But my last meal on a rest day is 25 grams of oats, 25 grams of custard cream of rice with golden syrup, trained by JP whey, and then I have 20 grams of nut butter and 100 grams of frozen raspberries. This is the nut butter that I use. It is literally next level. This is the best nut butter that I've ever used. It is wonderful. So highly recommend trying this if you have not tried it just yet. I'll put a little bit of cinnamon on here, but other than that, that is pretty much everything to wrap up a rest day. And I mean, as much as it's maybe relatively boring to watch, that is just the drill. That is the drill. And food is obviously exactly the same as it was when I showed my last rest day. I can't remember if I showed my full day of eating then, but I suppose this has been a little bit of a full day of eating. And yeah, everything is the same. And I think that's probably like one of the best messages that you can take away from this video, is that we do just kind of do the same things over and over, but that brings us the results, and that's also something to find a lot of enjoyment in. I think that as a bodybuilder, you have to have a lot of appreciation that it is kind of like Groundhog Day, but you love it. Like, I love having structure, I love having consistency, but I also love the fact, and especially at the moment, it's so cool for me to see how I'm doing obviously the same things. Yes, I'm pushing myself, but I am seeing changes now, which for obviously a while in off season, you kind of just get used to really just loving the process, ticking along without expecting changes all the time. And that allows you to kind of fall in love with the actions of the day to day, rather than always being so like outcome driven or needing instant gratification for what you do. You just enjoy it. I won't let myself ramble on because I'll end up going down a rabbit hole. If you've made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry it's been a little bit more boring with me being entirely on my own. I promise the next one will be more fun when AJ is back. But if you have made it to the end, thank you so much. Thank you so much for all your support. Thank you for the support in the last couple of videos. It's been amazing, honestly. I didn't really expect anyone to really watch them and enjoy them. So the fact that even just like, you know, one person will be watching them is amazing. So yeah, thank you so much for all the support. Please do like, share, subscribe, everything if you have enjoyed the episode, and I will catch you all in the next one.